You ready, RJ? 1, 2, 3. Good to go.
All right.
Good afternoon. Tanya Redding, your 2021 SMAR president. I am here as part of our leadership interview series. Today, I'm sitting down with one of our corporate sponsors, Mike O'Brien with O'Brien Realty. Mike, first and foremost, thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to come visit with us. We greatly appreciate it. And thank you so much for being a corporate sponsor and investing in SMAR. We really do appreciate that as well. So our first question is, from your perspective, what would one of your top concerns from the brokerage standpoint heading into 2022?
Well, I think one of the most disturbing trends I see is that the activity of a real estate agent's being broken down into several different levels. And it's mostly on the West Coast, but it's headed this way, where you have a showing agent that is less skilled and poorly paid, is willing to do those activities on behalf of a primary realtor. And then you have a closing agent who's skilled in contracts and stuff. And then you have an agent that meets with customers or potential clients on listing appointments. And that's sort of an outgrowth of the team concept that's been spreading. So I think that's the idea, that we are going to become less skilled and have different pay scales at every level, could cause a change in the way we're compensated. So I think it's something to be concerned about. Hopefully it's a long way off in Southern Maryland.
I would hope so. We have to show our value. That's ultimately
for
what we have
sure.
to do. We have to
Yes.
show our value to our
The
clients.
value of full service.
Yes, exactly. So what market issues are you seeing currently in Southern Maryland, and how do you see the balance of 2021 and 22 unfolding in our marketplace, specifically here in Southern Maryland?
I think there's lots of things to be concerned about, although the market is good in that every listing that we seem to secure sells in a reasonably short period of time. But the issue really is rising prices, which in the end aren't good for our industry. They've been rising at a pretty fast pace over the last 2 years. And then, as we know, we're having new appraisal problems. So you have to prepare your people for that disappointment after they sell their property for a really high price. Then they're, have to get over a couple more hurdles, and the appraiser is one of them and the underwriter is another. So that's an issue. And then the prospect of inflation and increasing interest rates. Prices are going up because we have extremely low rates. And if you were to take the 2 3/4% interest rate on a current FHA loan, and we get back into a more typical market where savers and investors want a higher return, when you go from 2% to 5%, that's a 100% increase in the monthly payment. That's going to be a shockwave if it spreads through the market. So some of these price increases are people that are buying monthly payments. They can afford the inflated price because they have an extremely low rate. But when that low rate goes away, we're going to be left with the difficulty of trying to sell higher priced properties. So, although things look like they're going to continue this way for a while longer, I'd, keep your antenna up and plan on the future.
There you go. Exactly. So is there anything here that you think SMAR as an association should be focusing on in the next 3 years?
Well, I think there are a lot of challenges ahead of us. Some things that I'd like to see is more ad hoc committee groups, meetings on special topics, where you get people who are actually involved and you kind of twist their arm to get them to volunteer and come out and share their experience and their knowledge. I would be big on arm twisting in that regard. They won't join committees. They won't volunteer. They're all very busy. They're all making very good money. And so you have to press them pretty hard to get them to show up. So I'd like to see that. The other thing is, I think there's some problems that we have in cooperating because we're using different platforms. And, I've often thought that we should pick one and adopt it as the only solution in the board. So our firms embrace Dotloop, and we buy the business version of Dotloop from them. It's pricey, but it allows our salespeople and our managers and to communicate much more effectively. And it would be great if everybody was on that same platform. That would be a step in the right direction. remember when we made the decision about lock boxes and going to a more expensive lockbox, and I knew that if it wasn't made as a mandatory requirement, that we would end up with an awful lot of people that would not purchase the lock boxes. So right now, when you look at our inventory, it's about half combos and half electronic. So, I think that everybody is better served if we had one system that we required everyone to participate in. I think it would be better for our clientele. So that sort of uniformity, economies of scale, maybe we can negotiate better deals on different things. And there are some off-the-shelf services that are available to agents. Like, for example, we have an arrangement with, now I'm going to draw a blank on the company, but it's a CMA program, and it's a cloud-based program that allows you to do a customized CMA. And it's expensive, but if you buy 100 seats, then it's not so expensive. So maybe we can have the board look into some of those things. So people that want to get away from MRIS and do something different would have that alternative. It doesn't have to be in CMAs, it could be in anything.
Right. Yeah, we use the iCloud CMA, which works really well. I like that.
Yeah, and there's,
But there are lots of different ones.
I guess there's 5 competing, nationwide brands that help you. And and that's just in that one area. There's lots of other areas we could explore as a board and get group discounts.
Right. So as we know, in this industry, change and adapting to change for survival and success is very important. Is there anything you can share with us that you've learned or adjusted to in the last 12 to 18 months that may be helpful for SMAR members?
12 to 18 months. Wow. That's a small period of time. Obviously, COVID has taught us that, in a funny sort of way, taught us that we can work from home more effectively than we thought we could, that we can, through, the tools that are available, we can communicate on screen with large numbers of people. So we're doing our office meetings, using, an online service. And it's not as good as seeing people in person, but it is pretty good. And so I see that as a change. I also see that the advances in technology are growing, exponentially. It's and not necessarily in what I perceive as a healthy way. I think the real estate income now is clearly divided into 3 separate segments. You have assigned business, which belongs to someone that they assign it to you, and you work for a very modest fee. You have referred business, which used to be broker to broker, but is now, third-party aggregators that are using the internet to get in front of you with buyers and sellers, and then they're sort of reselling that business to you for an exaggerated referral fee. So when you look at those 47.5% to 55% referral fees, it would be hard to justify, in my mind, taking on all that responsibility and all that work for that fee structure. So that part's growing. The good news, I think, is within at least my experience in our company is agent-generated business, which comes from your referral base. People are still willing to pay a full fee and a reasonable fee to have your service. So I think that what's changing in this moment in time is that everybody recognizes they have a sphere of influence. And we know that there's a direct correlation between the number of people in your sphere of influence and your income. And a study that I saw recently put that number at a relationship of 1,000 to 1. So if you want to make $100,000 a year, you'd need to have 100 people in your sphere of influence, and 200, you'd have to have 200,000, you'd have to have 200 people. But in order for that to hold true, you have to have a well-documented sphere of influence, which means you're using a CRM program. And I think going into the future with the shift from advertising and marketing, into social media, it's going to become even more important than ever that you have a documented sphere of influence so you can plug into those various programs. And that's been the hardest transition for people that are over the age of 40 in our company, is to realize that we moved from newsprint. We made a terrible decision when we decided that a person visiting our website was in our office. And so we could show them every property in the MLS as if they were in our office. And that turned the internet into a real estate magazine. But a real estate magazine, you can only advertise your own properties. You can't advertise everybody's. So that changed the market. And then we all went to websites, individual websites for agents, and that worked. But now we're making that transition from email marketing and websites over into social media. And you're going to have to be up to speed in order to play in that game.
Yes, you are absolutely correct in that. That is for sure. That is for sure. And CRM is very important. And you're right. I think I was in the business about 10 years before I actually took a Buffini class. And that's when I finally started learning how to run my business like a business. And we're getting ready to offer that here at Smart, 100 Days to Greatness for experienced agents, for new agents. And I think that's a good place to really figure out your CRM and how important it is to use it. And I use mine on a daily basis. It really does help me. That's where I get majority of my business.
Well, there's lots of other trends to be aware of and to figure out how you're going to work this into your program. One of the interesting things, if I'll take the marine industry, for example, you go into a particular marine vendor and they will not have what you want, where they used to always have it on their shelf. Now it's like, well, we can have it for you tomorrow morning or tomorrow by 10, and they're running a store with an empty basket. And what technology has allowed is for people to come in and cooperate with us on our inventory. I'm talking about people who are members of the Southern Maryland Board, but they aren't members of the Southern Maryland Board, and they don't bring anything to the table but a buyer. So in this exchange that we have, where I agree, I'm going to give you full access to all of my inventory in exchange for full and easy access to all of your inventory. And it should be fair, no withholding, no pocket listings, but fair and reasonable access to your inventory. In this new group of buyer representatives that are coming into our marketplace, they don't bring any listings with them. They just feed off of our inventory. And I don't know there's anything we can do about that unless we want to start driving north or doing something different and expand into other areas.
Right.
But it's a concern. And I've noticed that we have maintained in our group, a reasonable number of in-house transactions, but it is, constantly being affected by out-of-town buyer representatives.
Yes, we see that a lot in the Charles County area. That's for sure. That's for sure. Well, do you have any questions for me?
For you?
Yay.
How much do you get paid?
Not enough. Not enough.
Not enough.
No, I was actually just talking with Tim Murphy earlier today, and we were discussing the fact that everybody thinks it's, this is a great market for realtors. It's wonderful, it's easy money. That's what I keep hearing from people. And I've explained to a couple of them, actually, we probably work 10 times harder now than we have in years past, because for an example, when you have a buyer, where in years past, you've only worked with them for 2, maybe 3 months. We're now working with buyers for 6, 7, 8 months. We're writing multiple offers. It's a roller coaster ride. There's a lot more involved. You have to figure out the best way to make your offer the best out of the 10 that the sellers are getting. So
no, it's difficult, and it's disappointing when you put so much effort into a contract, into making an offer, making all of the decisions that lead up to that, and then it goes nowhere.
Right.
And I can see why some people get discouraged.
Yes, it can be very discouraging, and I try very hard to be positive for my clients, and but it's hard. It's really hard for them. So it's not necessarily an easy market for everybody. It's a good market, and it can be very, people can be very successful, but it's not a quick buck. That's for sure. There's a lot of work, and you need to be trained properly to do your job correctly for the community. For sure.
And skill levels are more important now than ever. And I think the business does drift to the people who have higher volume and better skills and communicate more effectively through media. So, we are seeing a gap between the haves and the have-nots. And I don't see that changing. So what you want to do is you want to get on the side that's going to generate a reasonable income. There are a lot of negatives in real estate. You have to work into the evenings, and you have to work weekends, and you have job insecurity, income insecurity. And the only thing that makes it worthwhile is being successful, closing a reasonable number of transactions at a reasonable fee.
Mhm.
So, I encourage everyone to think about their skill set and look at areas where they can improve. And, computers are, they're not going anywhere. And being able to generate an offer in less than 5 minutes, I think should be all of our objectives,
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Well, we again greatly appreciate you coming in and spending some time with us today. We greatly appreciate you being a sponsor and supporting SMAR. It is very wonderful to have those sponsorships and be able to help us do the things we need to do here. So we greatly appreciate that.
All right, thanks for your efforts.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Have a great day.